Hello, everyone. Hoping you all can hear me now. We are just about to get started, and we will have Rumi Varma, our Vice President of Family Engagement for the San Ramon Valley Council of PTAs, introduce herself in just a minute. Right now, we're just trying to give everybody a chance to switch over from Zoom to YouTube. Hopefully, you all are here and ready to go. Hoping you all. Welcome again. Sorry about that. We're having a couple of technical difficulties. We should have our host ready to go in just a minute. Welcome, Rumi. Thank you so much for putting together this presentation for everybody. Are you ready to get started? Welcome.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Heidi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this quiet Saturday morning. On behalf of San Ramon Valley Council of PTAs, I welcome you to our panel presentation, Parenting During Crises, Tools and Tips. My name, of course, as Heidi introduced me, I am Rumi Varma and Vice President for Family and Engagement with San Ramon Valley Council of PTAs. Before we begin, I would like to introduce our Council President, Lisa Gross. Following Lisa, we'll hear some details about today's programs from Heidi Ellicott-Pesic, our Vice President for Communications. And now to Lisa. Lisa, I invite you to say a few words.
Thank you, Rumi. Thank you, Rumi. First of all, I want to welcome everybody. Everyone here should know how hard Rumi has worked today to make today a success. I want to welcome and thank our audience for joining us on this Saturday morning. And Rumi, our VP of Family Engagement, has planned just a wonderful, wonderful program. And so I am sure this will provide all of us with many practical parenting tools. A very, very warm welcome to our panelists. We're very fortunate to have so much expertise with us today. Dave Fendel is the Contra Costa County Office of Education Coordinator for Social Emotional Learning, as well as a former education teacher and a school principal, as well as the parent of a 4th and 9th grader. Dave supports the district with emotional needs of the teachers, the students, and the families so that learning can happen. Linda Turnbull is the founder and executive director of Tina STEAM. Tina STEAM has worked for years to develop educational programs to educate and empower our children to make good choices. Our very own San Ramon Valley Unified School District Executive Director of Secondary Education, John Campo Piano. John has received many awards for his administrative excellence, as well as being a former principal at our Stone Valley Middle School and a parent in our community. The San Ramon Valley Council of PTAs has a long history of meaningful partnerships in our community, and we work to further our advocacy on the behalf of children and families. Today, as part of our mission, we hope to inform, engage, and empower parents on the issues concerning children and families. We want positive outcomes for every child. Today, right before we begin, I want to welcome Heidi Ellicott-Pesic, our VP of Communications and our Zoom Master.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for your patience. For those that are joining us from the Zoom waiting room, the video will be available to you, and you can join whenever is convenient for you. For those that saw the message and joined us over on YouTube, thank you so much. We apologize for the last minute change, but with the overwhelming response to the meeting, we wanted to have the opportunity for everybody to be able to participate. We would still like to take your questions, and so we've set up an email address at questions@srvcouncilpta.org. If you have questions for our panelists or information you'd like to share, you can share it there, and time allowing, we'll share those questions with the panelists and or forward the information afterwards. So please feel free to submit your questions there. And thank you once again for joining us here. I do want to put a little shout out that we will be hosting a San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board Election Candidate Forum on this YouTube channel. Well, actually, I take that back. I think we're going to do that one by Zoom on September 23rd at 6 p.m. and more information will be coming. Be sure to look for items on our YouTube channel, on our council website and social media. Thank you so much for joining us, and back to you, Rumi. I apologize. I actually wanted to share a little bit about the program flow, which is we will have Rumi as our moderator, engaging with the panelists and having them introduce themselves, share a little bit about what they do. She has some questions for them, and then later we will turn to Q&A. Thanks so much. Rumi.
Hi. So yes, with great pleasure, I would like to welcome and invite our wonderful panelists to join us on screen. I invite David Fendel, Social Emotional Coordinator from Contra Costa County Office of Education; Linda Turnbull, Founder and CEO of Teen Esteem, a highly regarded local nonprofit; and John Campopiano, Executive Director for Secondary Education with the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. Thank you, and we really are happy to have you join us today. I request our panelists to please share some information about themselves and their work. Would you like to begin, Dave?
Thanks, Rumi. I'm going to wait till my picture pops up on the screen. Good morning, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be able to address parents in San Ramon Valley. Again, I'm Dave Fendel, and I am the coordinator of social and emotional learning with the Contra Costa County Office of Education. But more than that, I'm a parent who is struggling along right with you as we are in this COVID-19 time. This air is filled with smoke time. And so I can very much empathize with the struggles that we're all going through. And at the same time, also sort of keeping that bright light of hope and putting in place some strategies to support our kids the best that we can during this unprecedented time. And so in my role as at the County Office of Education, I support all 18 local school districts in basically everything that's climate related. So that's social and emotional learning, that's trauma-informed practices, that's restorative practices, making schools a safe place for kids. And that is true even in the distance learning mode that we're in. It's really important that we maintain relationships because that is one of those things that build resiliency. So that's what I do over at the county office, and I'm happy to be with you here this morning.
Thank you. Linda, you're up now.
Good morning. My name is Linda, and I'm the Executive Director of Teen Esteem. And we have actually been in the Valley here for over 25 years with programs starting in kindergarten, basically talking to kids about making healthy choices, addressing all of the different challenges our kids face when it comes to things like substance abuse, mental health issues, building healthy relationships. Bottom line, our message for students is your values based on who you are and not what you do, and that everybody deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. We have been actually very excited since the middle of March when the shelter in place hit with the pandemic. We started taking our programs and putting them into a virtual platform. And we have created videos that we have been able to provide to teachers that we would normally come into the classroom and cover the content in the classroom with our speakers. But we've now created engaging videos that we are making free and available to the different schools that we currently serve, as well as we've been able to provide live Zoom presentations. So we've been working with teachers to come alongside them and provide for them whatever we can that will help them navigate the remote learning process and provide content that's valuable for their students. So thank you, Heidi, Rumi, and Lisa, for putting together this, this seminar this morning, because I recognize there's a lot of parents in our community, and students for that matter, that are truly struggling. So thank you so much for this morning and having me on your panel.
John, may we invite you to share something?
Yes. Good morning. My name is John Campbell Piana. I'm the Executive Director of Secondary Ed, as was mentioned. I'm a father of 3 boys, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school. And thank you for being here. It's incredible that you're here with us watching. And I'll get to why I'm so impressed with that in a minute. And Dave, last year presented to all of our principals and was incredible in looking at social emotional being the foundation of all we do. How can we learn if we're not in a good spot? Our kids must feel safe and comfortable, and it's been exacerbated now, which we'll get to. And Linda, the work that your organization has done when I was the principal of Stone Valley, bringing in your team to work with our students and our parents was transformative. So thank you. And for me at my core is my family, my kids, and I had a lot of fun asking them to give me topics for this morning. And I'll share some of those later because, you know, I said, hey, what are some of the tips and tricks that I'm doing really well as I parent you during these days? And some of them I can't share, but others, I really had to pull some out, but I'll get to that. And I think the key for me, my whole theme over and over, if you remember one thing, is we have to put our oxygen mask on first. As a parent, if we're not safe, comfortable, in a good spot, we can't lead our family. And so that is my theme throughout this time, is put our oxygen masks on. And so I'll go into some details later, but I'm just honored to be here. Thank you, Heidi, Lisa, and Ruma for inviting me.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for sharing about your work. We have a lot to discuss and a limited amount of time, so I would like to begin right away. Our first topic, which is ever present in our minds, is most adults find parenting challenging. In the pre-COVID modern day, 24/7 modern workday, we used to have a support network. People who helped us, our family, neighbors, friends, and this pandemic has changed all that. It has made things even more difficult. What would be your advice to parents who are feeling overwhelmed by the challenges of raising a family in this pandemic? Linda, would you like to share some insights with us? Thank you.
Thank you, Rumi. This is a very challenging time. And I think as we have tried to address this from the very beginning, we have a Facebook Live that we've been having different presenters on and just trying to come alongside and address the different challenges that parents have been struggling with. And I think my encouragement to parents would be, everybody's struggling, and not to put too many expectations on yourself as a parent. You can only do so much. And our kids are resilient, and they will get through this. And there will be some, over time, when we look back, there will be some great benefits that our kids will gain through this. And in the midst of it, it's, I think, just taking a deep breath and realizing you can't be the perfect parent through this. There is no such thing as being a perfect parent through this. We all have to just look at it and prioritize what is realistic for us to do and not put too many expectations on ourselves. I think a lot of parents are feeling guilty, and guilt isn't going to help anything. All you can do is take it one day at a time. And for every family out there, there is a completely different dynamic. There's different personalities in their kids. There's different challenges with their kids. There's different learning disabilities that kids have. There's parents that have two working parents. There's parents that are single parents and working. And so there's such a variety of different challenges that families are facing. And I think that to just be realistic about what you can do. And, you know, I was reading something recently and I thought this really hit home right now, especially with not only the pandemic, but the fires. And so our kids can't even go out to burn off energy and just kind of get a break from what they're doing. And so to try to have fun as best as you can and be creative, to just make some fun moments and lighthearted moments. If you're not getting to everything that needs to be done, it's not a big deal. Take a break and laugh. Laughter can just lighten up the atmosphere for everybody. And so it's okay if your kids aren't getting everything done the way you want them to get it done. It's really more important that you try to take moments to have fun and laugh.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Dave, as a parent of an elementary student, what would you like to tell our stressed out parents who have little ones?
That's a great question, Rumi. Like Linda was saying, it's hard, right? It's really hard. And so what I would say is sort of piggybacking on what was just said. First, be kind to yourself and don't judge yourself. And if you're feeling stressed in the moment, or you're feeling anxious in the moment, or you're feeling like you're not doing enough in the moment, recognize that. Recognize how you're feeling, and then take that big breath and use whatever strategy that you have to help manage that. So that being said, once you do that, you're actually role modeling that for your kids. No matter how old they are, your kids are stressed and your kids are anxious and your kids are having a hard time. And so the best thing that I could say is first, provide tons and tons of structure, right? So that things are predictable right now, so that your kids know what's coming next. And then when they struggle, let them know that that's okay, right? That this is a hard time, and it's okay if they're struggling, and it's okay if they're not getting everything that they want to get done. If you try to put too much pressure in the moment, it's only going to exacerbate the stress and the worry, and they're not going to be able to get things done. So sometimes your kids need that break too. Mistakes are okay as long as we learn from those mistakes. And so as parents, we're making mistakes. And as kids, our kids are going to make mistakes. And so if we have that expectation, when they do make that mistake, it's going to help us support them in being kind to them. That doesn't mean like let them get away with nothing and not attend their classes and do all those things, right? But what it means is we check in with them. How are they doing? And we reflect. One of the things that I would say is most difficult for kids right now is that this feeling of having no control, right? We have no power over the air quality. We have no power over it being distance learning. And so kids are looking for places where they can exert some of that control. And sometimes we see behavior out of that. And so that behavior is really telling us something. So we want to listen to our kids, not only with their words, but really taking that almost like a scientist view of it, right? What is my kid's behavior right now telling me? And so how can I respond to help support them?
Thank you, Dave. John, 3 teenagers at home, teen boys that too. So I just would like you to share that aspect of parenting with our audience.
Thanks, Rumi. Appreciate it. The first thing I think is important in San Ramon, and to know this, we're blessed with incredible educators. And I remind my children, your teachers care about you, your coaches care about you. It's in a different way now. And it's good for them to realize there's a lot of people caring for my boys and your kids. And so some of the fun things we've done that really stand out is I make them listen to my music that I grew up with when I was their age, and then I listen to theirs, and we do it in a car ride, and we take turns, and we always get some sort of snack or different thing, because kids, especially boys, will give you more of their feelings, at least mine, when they're not looking right at you, when they're driving, listening to a horrible 80s song that I love so much, and then I'll listen to one of their songs and back and forth. We share the playlist, we share, we talk, and we've been talking a lot about other ways to get out your energy. And so a lot of in-house different exercises, that kind of thing. And the biggest thing that we've been talking a lot about is it's okay to feel the way you feel. And I believe what Dave and Linda just said, our kids will have better awareness of how to process these things. The social unrest. I mean, my teenage boy has had to not go to baseball because of smoke, because of the protests that were happening in Walnut Creek that shut down the field. We have an election coming up that we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to prepare our students and our families for how we're going to react to that. And so what I try to keep telling my children is there's so many people out here that love and care, that mom and dad also feel this way, that we have to give ourselves grace. We have to love what we're doing, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And with my kids and your kids, I think they need that structure, but make it fun, and stay up a little later watching certain shows or movies. I'll just be quiet on this one. One other thing we did is we just watched 4 John Candy movies. I can't believe that, the John Candy movies, and they had to go through those, and the kids got the biggest kick out of seeing their mom and dad laugh about different things. We have more opportunities to be together through music, through movies, through food, and just try to embrace it. We won't have this, hopefully we won't be in this situation forever. Thanks, Rumi.
Thank you, John. That was a really refreshing take on this, and I'm sure that our audience have appreciated your thoughts. Dave, I would like to ask you this, because this is something you did mention about structured environment. In this 21st century, the expectations of being Instagram family, always perfect at home, perfect at work, having extremely structured schedules. We have people sharing their whole day pre-planned, every minute of the day, and everything is there on social media. How would you advise our parents who cannot keep up or are always active on social media about trying to be perfect at home, perfect at work, and setting those kind of standards for our students? Dave, and then I'll ask the same question of Linda.
That's an amazing question, Rumi. I'm going to let everybody in on a little secret. Nobody's perfect, right? So what you see on Instagram or Facebook, those are snapshots that people put out there. And of course, we all want to portray that everything's great and everything's wonderful. But almost everybody these days is struggling to one degree or another. And so I want to just jump on something John just said too, and that is, it's okay. In fact, I encourage people to, when you talk to your kids, tell them this is hard, right? And tell them that we're all going to make mistakes and that nobody's perfect. That's because our kids are under that amazing pressure too, where they see their friends posting on Instagram and Snapchat and all of those things. And it's really important to kind of just remind them that we're all making mistakes. This is really hard for everybody. And at the same time, giving them the message of we're going to get through this, and really refocusing on, yes, this is hard. This is unprecedented, but it's not going to last forever. And so knowing that, and two, what John was saying, finding those moments of joy is really important, right? And so one of the things that I do with my family is we have a weekly family meeting where we go around the table and we talk about gratitude. And so what are we grateful for? So it refocuses that doom and gloom onto what, even in this time where it's really hard, there's still things that are good, and there's still things that we can appreciate. In fact, one of the things we talk about is we're spending more time together as a family. And so let's appreciate that and let's enjoy that. And so that's what I would say to that, right? Don't be fooled by what you see on social media. Social media is not the reality of what's happening. It's those snapshots that people decide to put out there.
Thank you, Dave. That was really encouraging to hear. Linda, what do you think about our families trying to keep up with the social pressures of being perfect and being very structured and meeting all those, mental checklist of being the perfect parent?
Well, I think Dave referred to it. There's no perfect parent, and we all know that social media is not real, what we see on social media. And I think this applies to adults just as much as it does kids. And unfortunately, with having to be home so much and limited so much in our activities, a lot of the go-to is screen time, social media. And I would just encourage parents, and it all depends on your own child and the age of your child, but rather than just allowing screen time, maybe creating something where they have to earn screen time. There's a lot to be said about how much our kids are on screens. I know that we have dealt with this a lot within Teen Esteem prior to COVID, and it's just now exacerbated with everybody with the way we're living right now. And I love the idea that right now we have a lot of parents that are home with their kids. A lot of dads who would normally be traveling, moms that would be traveling, they're home. And our kids are getting very unique and special time with their parents. And so trying to be creative in how can we do things with our kids that take them away from the screen. And, I'm thinking puzzles. I mean, what a silly thing, but puzzles. I started doing a puzzle just because anything to just kind of take my mind off of other things. Games. I love what you were doing, John, with just, playing the music of the 80s and then listening to your kids' music and kind of having that comparison. Just getting creative, but really trying to limit the amount of screen time that our kids have. We have seen the impact that social media has had on young people, especially when it comes to mental health, and the impact of I am not good enough, I don't have and do the trips and do the things that other people do. And again, it's not realistic for a lot of families anyway. There is for families that have younger kids, there's a smartphone out there that they might want to look into, and it's designed around mental health for kids. And it basically is remove the access of the internet and social media, but it still allows kids the ability to text and communicate with their friends, because our kids are isolated. And the name of that is GAB, G-A-B-B. So parents might want to look into that. But FaceTiming. We all know that there's a lot of Zoom calls and people are getting tired of Zoom, but the isolation that our kids are feeling. And so somehow trying to create the ability for them to maybe FaceTime with friends, especially those of our kids that are more introverted and don't normally engage socially, but they need that. They need that interaction. They need that face-to-face interaction.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. All right. This is, we're going to shift gears and talk a little serious. This is about parents becoming teachers. Our parents are not trained teachers. So when the situation has demanded that we become full-time educators, along with our teachers and walk the same journey our students are walking as far as education is concerned, as parents, we find ourselves lacking in many areas because we are not competent teachers. We are maybe competent parents, that's a big maybe, but definitely not teachers. So what is the advice that you would give to parents who are trying to be teachers for their children? And this is something I'd like to ask John to chime in and share his thoughts.
Thanks, Rumi. As you know, my official role is, I supervise all the middle and high schools in the principals, assistant principals, et cetera, in San Ramon. At home last week, thank goodness for Google, when I was trying to help my son with his geometry homework. And when I was done, I sent a text to his teacher or an email to his teacher thanking him. So one kind of quick before I answer, Rumi, is I really have been trying to reach out and send emails of gratitude to our principals, assistant principals, and teachers. because A, they're doing some heroic work, and B, I don't think we thank them enough. So just one tip, if you have a special teacher or someone that's doing that, a lot of times our administrators don't get thanked, and they're doing a lot of behind the scenes work. So that's something that I really try to spend some time doing. But what we have seen, Rumi, is kind of ties into what we just saw in the last question, is where you have a lot of screen time, and our students right now have a lot of screen time. And so we'll continue to adjust that. We'll continue to share what our best thinking and we're putting together a plan for our board meeting. But in terms of the question itself, we are in a better spot than we were in the spring, where our teachers have a structured schedule, standards-based curriculum, and are really delivering. So what I would try to do, and this is hard, is reinforce with your students, your children, that their teacher is there for them, whether it's an email during the student support time, during class, and try to take that pressure off you. Like, it was good for my son and I to do the geometry together because I was in a good headspace. But if I had been stressed about all these other things, it would have gone, he's got an incredible geometry teacher. My son has to advocate, shoot an email, can I have some office hours, and do that. So I think the first thing, as parents, we all have to know that our teachers are on. This is not the spring where we were there. This is structure. In the spring, our teachers did amazing, but now there's a structure. There's student support, at least for our San Ramon families out there, where they can go and they can get that time. So Rumi, that's the first thing. I think we have to remember our teachers are incredibly capable and there to help. The second thing is, don't feel you have to be a master of all subjects. So what I have done with my friend down the street, he's the chemistry help, right? When we need a little ping, we try to balance, and I try to remember them. And I'm not the best person for this, because I really believe our kids are going to be in a great spot, whether they have a 4.2 or a 3.2, if they can find the passion and the commitment to learning. And so I am fine if my child does their best work and gets a B, as long as they go about it in an honest way with passion. So to kind of summarize that long-winded question is, you aren't expected to be the teacher. Our teachers are incredible. One reason you live in San Ramon Valley is because of our schools. And I can tell you from what I see, they are delivering. And if your student wants, reach out to them more. So I'll be quiet. Dave, I see your hands up.
Yes, Dave, I'm sure you have something interesting to share for our parents who are struggling with trying to be teachers, the mental challenge.
Yeah, and I totally agree with John. You're not the teacher. That's not your role. What your role, I think, at home is, for the adults at home, is to be some emotional support for your kids. That's really what they're looking for. And also, I think where parents and other adults who are at home with the students, the area where they could really help is helping with some of those executive functioning skills. And so those organizational skills, right? Making sure that your student knows what the schedule is for the day, helping your student create checklists, making sure that they have a space, right? That they're not lying down in their bed, like while they're in their Zoom class, that they have, a desk with the materials and supplies that they need. So setting up that environment for them. But in terms of delivery of curriculum or teaching, that remains in the role of the teacher. And so I'll just reiterate that you're not expected to be teaching the content. And if your student is struggling, for older kids, middle school and high school, they can text a friend, right? So that's where they can reach out to their peers. This is what they would be doing if they were in school. And then, like John said, like, the teachers are amazing. Teachers want to support your kids. And I know that the district is setting up structures like office hours where they can go and get support from the teacher, right? And then along with that emotional support is reminding your students that if they are struggling, take a break, put it aside for a second, right? Send an email to your teacher, text a friend, right? If you're stressed out in the moment, your brain is not ready to engage in those higher level thinking skills. And so you got to, teaching them those self-management skills is super duper important.
Okay, this is about our entire community. Thank you for sharing that, Dave. It was really important. Thank you, John. A little look at our community. We are a very diverse community. We have traditional families, traditional parents, we have single parents, we have same-gendered parents, we have foster parents, we have grandparents, we have a whole variety, a rainbow colored picture of our community. And with that, I would like to draw attention particularly to families which are struggling, being perhaps the main parent or the single parent family, where the challenge is a little more heightened, because they're not only worrying about COVID, about resources, about being the only parent for their children, but also thinking about the additional pressure of being the single safety net, the single provider, and being the educator at home. How would you encourage and support these parents in our community? And what advice would you give us as PTA to support these parents? All of
I'll go quickly in that, Rumi. Thank you. And thank you all to all the parents and specifically the families that are struggling. We're here to help, and our partnership with Discovery Center, our SCIP counselors, our district social workers, something that not everyone knows. We had one social worker in our district 2 years ago. We have 6 now. We have a robust student service department, our counselors. We've increased the number of counselors at middle and high school. So if you find that way, please reach out to us. We want to help, and we will continue to do our part to seek and find a way to support. But please reach out to me personally, and I can put you in places, or any of our school sites, because we have a lot of resources and we need to do a better job sharing what we have available to support. But we really are committed to you. So please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda, any words of advice for our very large, varied families and parents and community?
Well, I think also trying to tap into, as a single parent, and especially if you're working, if you've got a relative, a neighbor, there's a lot of people that are retired that are looking for ways to support and help families in our community, a neighbor. And one of the things I want to say to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, just parents in general, and the challenges and not being feeling like you have to be the teacher and do it all. Sometimes our kids just want us to listen to them. And so when our kids are really struggling and we see that, sometimes we need to put the pause button on and just listen. And when you listen, validate. Don't try to fix it, but just, what I'm hearing you really struggling with is this geometry class is really difficult and you just don't get it. And just listen to it, because that helps our kids process when they can vent and they can feel that everything that's building up inside, they can just kind of, even if they have to explode and it comes out in not the greatest way. But we all know that by being able to articulate that and then just have somebody validate it can be key to helping them through that moment.
Okay, this is something that I have been worrying about, and because a lot of my friends have shared their concerns, we have many families with young children who are in pre-K, TK, kinder through second, and they are concerned of their children missing out on the social emotional development milestones that they gain, especially through engagement, peer engagement, groups learning. And this is something that we can do a little bit, maybe virtually, but how would you suggest that our parents who have young children support their children? Dave, I would like you to respond to this. Thank you.
This is a really tough one, Rumi, because we know that in-person social interaction for our little kids is really important. And let's just acknowledge that we're not in ideal times. But health and safety, it's like we have to strike this balance between, especially for families who are living in multi-generational households or who have people in the household who might have some sort of underlying health issues. And we know that kids can bring, even if they're asymptomatic, can bring that back into the house. And so, unfortunately, we're in the situation where we have to practice social distancing and the mask wearing is tough with the little ones. And so I think for me, like reminding ourselves that this is a temporary situation, right? Like we're in the midst of it right now. So it feels, it's very anxiety provoking, but kids are also really resilient. And it's really important to remember that kids have a lot of resiliency. And so, yes, they're not getting all that they need now. You mentioned a couple things like setting up Zoom play dates and things like that, where they could have that social interaction virtually or social distance. I know my fourth grader, he's a little older than pre-TK, but he had a play date with a friend who they had 2 levels to their backyard, and they each stayed on different levels. And so they actually were able to physically interact with one another. But reminding that kids are resilient. And so once we're able to then, in whether it's 6 months or 9 months, however long it takes, they will quickly catch up to a lot of the things that they missed. And so it's really important to remind ourselves is that, like, and it's hard, right? Because we're in the middle of it. And so we're in the middle of it. We feel the stress, we feel the anxiety. There's nothing worse as a parent than watching your kid struggle. And I've had that experience with both of my guys, watching my 9-year-old struggle, watching my 14-year-old struggle, and it breaks your heart. And it's important to then remind yourself to take that step back, have that 30,000-foot view of, okay, it's okay that kids struggle sometimes. That's not the end of the world. We want to be there to support them, but that's part of life, right? And so they're developing some coping skills and they're resilient. And really what they want to know is that they're going to be safe and they're going to be loved. And if we can provide that, they are going to be set up to bounce back.
Thank you, Dave. It's good to hear that those words, comforting words, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'd like to invite our other panelists if there's something they would like to add.
I'd like to just add one. I have a great partner at the elementary level, Miss Nadine Rosenswag. She's the executive director of elementary. And she always reminds me, as her parents her children are older, and we talk, and she says, John, if the parent is calm, the kid will be calm. And sing with them, dance with them, play with them. For the real young ones, my brother, who's a principal in another school district, has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And my mom brought him one of those big refrigerator boxes. Somehow she got at Friedman's or somewhere. And it was the greatest thing ever. My brother and his wife just played with the kids and colored and did that. And yeah, it's not perfect, acknowledge, but when they're calm, kids are calm, and just to sing and dance and play, crayons, sidewalk chalk. And so I just am trying to always remind myself of that and share that with others.
Great, thank
I mean,
you.
I would just love to add to that our kids are watching us. And so how we're reacting, our kids are observing that, and it's affecting them. And if we can have the kind of attitude with this will pass, we're all going to be okay. They need to hear we are going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And when they hear that and they see the parents at peace about that, then our kids are going to be more at peace about it. But when they see parents that are stressed and overwhelmed, and which is very much a reality for our parents. A lot of parents are struggling. They're struggling with their own panic attacks and depression and anxiety. And so the more though our kids can see in front of them and hear from us, we're okay, we're going to get through this, it's going to have a ripple effect on how our kids are reacting.
Thank you. And this is a big question. And I have struggled with it myself, is how honest can we be with our children? I mean, I'm sure there are varying degrees of honesty, but I'd like your take on this, Linda, and then the other panelists too. How honest do we be with our kids?
I think we need to be somewhat honest with our kids, but I think it also depends on their age and it depends on your child. There are a lot of kids that are really, really struggling right now. And so I think sometimes you can be honest, but you can give a little bit. You don't have to give the whole perspective. You can just give a little bit of the honesty there. And then again, trying to validate to them or trying to help them better understand, we're going to be okay. We will get through this. And we are not the first generation to go through a pandemic. And so there's trying to keep that focus, but I think honesty is really important, but it doesn't mean you have to share everything.
Any of our other panelists? Yes, John.
I'll go, if that's okay. So I think I totally agree with you, Linda. Kids are going to see right through us if we don't tell them the truth. And one thing we could also do is ask them what they know, right? Ask them how they understand things, because that it gives us a little bit of insight, and so we can correct any misconceptions they may have. But it also gives us another chance to listen to our kids and listen to what they're worried about, and offers us a place to give some reassurance. And so I think the message we want to give our kids is, yes, it's hard right now, but we're wearing face masks and we're doing the social distancing because that's what's keeping us safe. And if we're smart about things and we do the things that we're supposed to do, we are going to get through this. And so we want to kind of give that message of hope, but also not sugarcoating the reality. And so acknowledging that it's hard, acknowledging that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and acknowledging that we're there for them. Again, that's one of the things that they're worried about. Is they're worried about, kids are very much have that egocentric, like what's in it, what's going on for them. And so we want to give them those reassurances.
Thank you, Dave. Did you have to share something, John?
They both said it brilliantly, but I think just they're going to get input. So it's important for us to share what we believe. But I do think there's a line, and I learned this early in education, is if you don't think it's going to be fine, your 11-year-old, you shouldn't be honest with your 11-year-old about that and think this is over. We're in a blah, blah, blah. They don't need Fox, CNN, whatever news network you watch, as they need a parent. They look up to you and us like none other. And back to, if you're calm, they're calm. So I think you need to be honest. Like, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I can't believe we're going through this. This is me for an age appropriate 17-year-old, but we're going to be fine. I don't talk that way to my 11-year-old. I don't express it as much, but we talk through it. We're going to be fine financially. They're worried what's happening with jobs. Will they be able to go to college? Yes, you'll be able to go to college. Do I have to go to another state to take the SAT? No, you don't. You're going to be okay. So I don't believe that we should be honest if we're going to scare our children. So you really have to put yourself in a spot where you know yourself and how you're going to share. And it's very much about their age and their developmental level. My 15-year-old's frontal lobe isn't where it should be. So certain things I have to temper. So anyways.
Okay. Thank you, John. And it's good to hear those encouraging, reassuring words, especially understanding your child. And understanding this is important because every family is different. They have different family dynamics, and each child is different. Their temperament is different. With that, if we think of teachers, they have the skill set. They have been experiencing professional development. They know how to educate children with different temperaments. Parents don't have that training. They do not have the training of using different teaching strategies. They do not have the castle experience. How would you, Dave, advise parents to be better teachers? Do you have any resources that you would like to share? And give some words of encouragement.
Yeah, sure. One thing I will say, and this is always the case, right? Parents know their own kids best. And so, yeah, a parent might not be a teacher, but you've figured out what works with your student. And I'm going to go back to also something that Linda said in the very, very beginning. I think it was Linda. I think you said it, is that like that whole idea of giving, putting on your own oxygen mask first, right? Like we have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that we can be there for our kids. And so, you know, there's some sort of universal truths, like every kid does have a different temperament, and different strategies work differently for all sorts of different students. But this whole idea of letting our kids know that whatever emotion they're going through is okay, acknowledging that, right? Not trying to convince your kid that they're not anxious or that they're not sad, but just reflecting back. Yes, you know, this is hard. I hear you that you're feeling anxious, or I hear you that you're feeling sad. And then kind of moving forward to that, how do we manage those feelings, right? Because all different feelings, whether it's happy or sad or angry or upset or anxious, that's part of being human. Like we all go through all of those feelings. And so the skill is being able to, like, you know, you mentioned the Castle competencies, those first two. The first one is recognizing how you feel. So often we go through the day not even aware of our own feelings. And then once you get really skilled at sort of recognizing in the moment, and that's without judgment, right? Like if you're feeling sad, that's okay. But what do we do when we're sad? What helps us move through that? And also that idea that emotions are temporary, right? So emotions come, but if you're feeling sad right now, it doesn't mean you're going to be. Sometimes kids, I know my own 9-year-old has this sometimes, and I have to remind him that when he's feeling sad, he thinks he's going to be sad forever. And so it's important. Yes, you're feeling sad right now, but remember, like, you know, tomorrow you might not be feeling sad. And so like, and giving them that skill to, these are the things that work for you, right? These are personal strategies. What works for you when you're feeling sad? What works for you when you're feeling anxious? What works for you to help you get into a different state? So helping them with those skills of self-management.
Thank you, Dave. And we are coming towards the end of our panel discussion. We will transition in a few minutes to our question and answer session. But before we do that, I have a couple more things that we would like to discuss here. And Linda, you had something to share, and then we will go to the next topic.
Thank you, Rumi. I just wanted to add to what Dave was saying about the feelings that our kids are going through. If your child is a writer, have them journal it, have them write it out, because many times just writing out what they're feeling helps them process it. And it might just be an exercise that might help them through that time of anxiety or the panic that they're going through. But encouraging them to journal their feelings could be really helpful.
Okay, that does sound really helpful. Thank you. Well, we've been talking a lot about our younger children. Let's talk about our older children, children who are not only being encouraged to study independently and take on more responsibilities. With the current situation we all are experiencing, some of them are helping out a lot more with the household chores. They are tutoring their younger siblings. Some of our children are also supporting family finances because of the current situation we are in. So how do parents support these young adults, these young teenage children? Linda, yes, I would definitely ask Tina's team's views on this.
We actually just did we sent it out to our database. It was actually 2 letters that written by a college freshman who's away at college and a college sophomore who's at DVC living at home. And it is being that in that adult world really, but yet still having to be at home. And I think it's a matter of kind of letting out the freedom for our adult kids, letting them have more responsibility and independence, and treating them more as an adult, and letting them kind of make, later curfews, just a little bit more freedom so that they aren't feeling so restricted. And especially for our kids, that we know there was a lot of disappointment in this spring with our kids that were graduating and didn't get to go through graduation. And I think our community and our school district did a phenomenal job in honoring those students. There were just some fun and creative ideas. And now we've got kids that aren't going off to college and they are staying at home. And that is a big disappointment. And I think it's just validating those disappointments. You know, those are very real for our kids. And just validating and listening and trying to just tell your kids, we're really sorry that this season is happening, but you will get through it. We will get through it. But I think just the whole point I said earlier about validating what they're going through.
Thank you, Linda. Any other? Yes, John, please.
Yes, first, the Castle website is casel.org. And there's great resources. I use them as a parent, as an educator, casel.org. And totally reiterating what Linda said, and one add-on that I've found is working for my children is finding ways to be of service. And last Sunday, we did the Contra Costa Food Bank, which was incredible. They came back dirty and they worked and they just didn't want to do it. They were angry that my wife and I had signed them up, and then they were different people 10 minutes into it and later that day. And so the more we can get out of ourselves and serve others in whatever way, and there's actually opportunities now that are left and right, the Monument Impact Center, there's different organizations, you know, you all know those, but just if we could find a way to give, and that's the thing, is during this hard time when we are missing and we didn't get to play our season and we didn't get to walk and there's no homecoming game right now. Yes, this is hard, but there's others out there that are struggling even more than we are. And can we go and be of service? And I think that service leads to this empowerment and this confidence and this, we're going to be okay. And so that's just something, if you as a family could maybe try to find one thing a month, would really, really bring the family together, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, John. We always get so many gems of advice from you. Thank you so much. And I do understand about service, and this is a great idea for families to come together and get through this pandemic and the restrictions they have placed on us. One of the other restrictions or one of the other worries that families have, that students have, and Linda did allude to it, is the Zoom anxiety, the Zoom fatigue. And I think, Dave, you have some great information on that. How do families and parents and students, when they are online, how do they cope with that?
Thanks, Rumi. First, John, that's brilliant. I love the fact that you're taking your family over to food bank, even if they were resistant at first. I wanted to just like, that was awesome. It's awesome because one of the reasons it's awesome is because one of the things that our kids are going through is really feeling powerless. And so giving them some agency and giving them some feeling like they're helping out their community, man, so many benefits to that. So I just want to just pat you on the back for that. Awesome job. In terms of Zoom fatigue, it's real, right? Like I have it as an adult as I sit through, you know, sometimes 5 or 6 hours of Zoom meetings a day. And at the end of the day, like I'm toast. I'm totally burned out. And so our kids are definitely going through that as well. And so one of the things that somebody said before is limiting that screen time when they're not, you know, in a required Zoom class. And so when they're not there, finding other things to do. And also using those breaks, right? I know the schools are setting their schedules that they have a class, but then there's a break between, you know, so finding those times in the day. You know, don't be on your phone at that time. You shouldn't be on your PS4, your Xbox during that time, because those are still screens. And so find other things to do. Go, you know, well, it's hard right now with the smoke, but the smoke is going to be more temporary. So go for a neighborhood walk if you can. You know, get outside a little bit. You know, John, you have baseball players I hear, so go have play some catch, right, if you're home. You know, take a break from your work. Try to sync up those work breaks if you can. And talk to your kids about that. Say, hey, you know, you're in front of Zoom for school a lot. So, hey, let's think of things together that you could do when you're not in your Zoom meeting. So you're not having that battle in the moment, right? That's a lot of that is important, is to kind of pre-plan those things. And that's part of that structure. So when we have break, here's a list of things that you can choose from, little ones too, right? So if you're on break, you can go outside, you could play Legos, you could read a book, you could draw, you could color, we could play Uno. So having those things that give the brain a break from the screen when you're not required to be on your synchronous learning.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone would like to add to that?
Rumi, I just want to add, I had somebody go through a difficult time with their young one who was really not able to sit in front of a screen and was really having meltdowns. And it was really, really difficult. And what she realized that if I separated all the students out and just had the teacher on the screen and got rid of all of the students that were on the screen, it completely made a difference for him. So it was just way too much for him looking at a screen with all of his peers. And he was much better off when he could just focus specifically on having his teacher on the screen.
Thank you, Linda. All right, we are really coming to the very end of our panel discussion on this. We'd just like to a little bit about the social changes that are going on in our community, and the biggest historic racial reckoning that is going on, and how our families are participating, supporting, interacting at this time with the current scenarios. What advice would you give that our parents share this with their children and guide them through this current change that's going on? Anyone who would like to speak on that?
I'll go quickly on that. Is look at history. That's something that we've really enjoyed. We watched Selma as a family a couple weeks ago, and that was incredible. John Lewis's passing, and to share that. And what I try to do with older kids is really, where are you getting your information? Because there's so much going on. They're old enough to discern the difference between these outlets and others, and then talk about history. It's important for them to realize there's been many times in history where we've seen this. And the more they can understand the past, I think it helps put some context to today.
Thank you, John. Anyone else would like to add to that? All right. So okay, Dave, go ahead.
I agree with John 100%. I think that there's also, for younger kids, there's a lot of age appropriate literature out there, or movies out there that you can find for younger kids as well, because you have to hit kids where they are, right? Where they are developmentally, and listen to kids, and again, like, listen to how they understand things, and listen to and have those conversations and open up that dialogue, and be honest about your feelings and how you feel about things in an age appropriate way.
Thank you, Dave. And this final question for our panel discussion, for all our panelists, is what kind of tools or tips that you would like to give our parents to help them survive these crises, after these whole series of crises that are happening with the pandemic, with the wildfires and the power shutoffs and everything that's going on? What are your recommendation and advice on tools and tips?
I can go for that too. And I know John will agree with me here. Reach out to your schools. Schools have really become community centers these days. And so, like John said, San Ramon, I know, has been doing a phenomenal job, and they're really focusing on social, emotional, and mental wellness supports for students and families. And so, reach out to the counselor at your school, reach out to the principal at your school, reach out to the teacher at your school, and they can direct you to what's locally available. There's tons and tons out there. Reach out to friends too, right? Like, if you're feeling socially isolated, you're not alone. And so that's a really important thing to know. Reach out to your PTA. I know the PTA has resources too, and they're creating groups and doing things to support families. And so there's lots of things in the community. It feels like you're alone because you're stuck in your home. You're kind of accessing the world through this computer screen, but there's resources out there. So don't be shy about reaching out.
And Rumi, I would say that also Teen Esteem has a lot of resources. We've been, as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing Facebook Live to just try to address the current challenges parents are facing. So you can follow us on social media, and some of those videos that we've done might be helpful with whatever the challenges you're having. And if there are challenges that parents would like to see us do more of providing resources and speakers on, please let us know, because we want to be very relevant to what parents are struggling with.
I'll say one more thing, Rumi. If for the families that are watching this, you've taken a great step. You're watching this YouTube video, right? And so you're on it. You're doing a great job. So everybody out there in YouTube world, give yourself a good pat on the back.
Thank you. Any tools and tips from John?
No, those are great. Just use your community groups and Discovery Center, etc. And David reminded me of something. I remember 18 years ago, I was really mad at myself because I had purchased all these how to parent books and I couldn't read them or apply them a couple. And you know, a mentor told me, "You bought the book. You're thinking about how to be a better parent." And same concept here. You're here and thank you. And just to reiterate, I'm biased because I love our schools. We're here to help you. Never feel that you can't reach out to us or that you'll be judged if you reached out, or let us help you with all of our supports.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, panelists. We really enjoyed this discussion. We do have to get to the questions. They have some questions which have come in live, and we do have some questions which we received earlier email. One of them is, okay, the importance of giving our students the space during school, since we are all now in the same environment, managing multiple children when they have all issues at the same time during school hours. How do we go about this? That's the question from our parent.
I can try here. It reminds me a little bit like when you have multiple kids in the household and they all have issues at the same time. It brings me back to my teacher days. When you would have 20 students in a class and 7 of them all want your help at the same time, what do you do? And so like, I'm gonna go back to structure. And so giving your kids some strategy. Okay, so if you have a problem and I can't help you, right? Whether it's because I'm helping one of your brothers or sisters, or it's because I'm in a work meeting and I can't help you right now. And so setting this up before the day. So this might be like at dinner the night before. Okay, if you're stuck the next day, what are the steps you can do, right? And so one of the other things we're doing is we're teaching them how to address their own problems. They could email the teacher. They could email a friend or text a friend. They can have a set of alternate activities, right? And so if I'm having trouble with my math, well, I'm gonna put math aside and I'm gonna do some quiet reading until I can get that help that I need. And so giving them that structures, sometimes when I was a teacher, one of the things that I would do is I would have a list on my whiteboard of a help list. And so a kid would just come up and they'd write their name on the list if they needed help. And what that did is then they knew that I knew they needed help, even if I couldn't get them right away. And so their anxiety would decrease because they know eventually when I have the moment, I can get around to them. So setting up some of those structures in your home of what do you do when you need help, right? Because you can't always get help in the moment. And that's true whether they're working at home, but it was also true when they were in the classroom.
Thank you, Dave. And I will be sharing this last question with all of you before we go to the live questions. This is something a parent says that we cannot do this alone. We have too much going on in our lives and we need help. So some of our parents also wanted advice on how can we arrange so that when parents do need help, whether it's financial, whether it's aid, whether it's anything, that they can do so in a dignified manner. Who would be able to, I would invite any of you who would like to speak.
Well, I think you have interesting, the 3 of us have different resources, right? County resources, and the amazing stuff Teen Esteem is. If you feel comfortable with me, or we would handle it in a very confidential way. We have incredible services through our student service department and our social workers And just as a basic start, shoot me an email and we'll talk. And then we'll figure out your comfort level and we'll go that. So we are here, and there are many people well more qualified than me, but I can get you in the right direction. So please, that's why we do this work.
Thank you.
I would just jump in too. I think one of the biggest things that we're battling is stigma. A lot of people are embarrassed to reach out for help, and it's one of the things. I work a lot in the mental health field as well, and providing mental health supports. And it's one of the things that we talk about in our meetings is how like so many people are struggling, and it's really one of the nice things is that it's becoming less and less stigmatized. But people really are there without judgment, wanting to support people. And so like reach out to where you're comfortable, but know that people want to help, and without judgment and without stigma and without shame. We all need supports at some points or another. And so there's no embarrassment. There should be no embarrassment in reaching out for help.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you, John. And now I'd like to invite Lisa Gross, our president, who has been fielding all the live questions. She will now, I pass on the mic to Lisa.
Thank you, Rumi. Okay, our first live question. My children are struggling with the differences in their friends' rules. Many of their friends are having in-home play dates, sleepovers, and birthday parties. My kids feel left out. I also struggle with others in our community not following guidelines. What can we do to support kids around this, and what is the best way to have conversations with other families about what precautions they are or are not taking?
Who would like to take this question?
I think I'll pass to Dave first with the fourth grader. I'll share my high school one, but I think the angst you're going through is real.
Mm-hmm.
And it is separating certain people in our community. And I feel that in our school structure. And so I'm curious with the fourth grader, with my older boys, we're able to do it a little differently, and I can speak on that, but I wanted to honor the age, I think, that you're discussing.
Well, I mean, I would say first, it is real. It's hard. I struggle with it too. I mean, I know, John, you passed it to me for the elementary age, but I'll tell a story about my 14-year-old who is watching on Instagram his friends like gathering at the park, and I'm like, we weren't letting him out, and he's telling me, my friends are so dumb. Like, look at them. They're at the park. They're not even wearing face masks. But I knew behind that was some jealousy and some envy that his friends are out there are doing those things. And so, one, I think acknowledging that it is unfair, right? Like, even a fourth grader or second grader, yeah, that's really. I know that feels really hard. Like watching your other friends do that, and then just kind of going back to, these are our family values, and I want to keep you safe, and I love you. And so acknowledging that it is hard to see that, that different families have different value systems, but also being careful of trying not to be judgmental, like, oh, we're better than them. Just, hey, every family has different rules, and every family has different values, and this is what we're doing. So what can we do? What can we do to help you feel connected to your kids? To your friends, and what are some steps that we can take? So acknowledging that it's hard, but also reiterating that these are our family rules and these are our family values, and we're the parents and we want to keep you safe, and that's as adults, that's our decision.
I can't repeat that any better than what you did, Dave, but even in the real times, we all have different value systems. And one of the things that we see at the older level is, families that host parties and things. And I tell my kids, we have different family values, no judgment. I love that point. Let's not be better or worse, but like, this is hard. And really our true friends will still remain our true friends. And can we have a late night outdoor video versus a sleepover? Can we come up with creative solutions? Because it is challenging. And here's my core, Dave, and this is Linda and Dave, and I'm saying this if we were at dinner parties, we do have to balance, though, that sometimes our kids need to have that play date, and we as a parent need to have them have that play date. So it's really important to figure out a way to do it safely so that you're protecting yourself and your family. And it's a difficult challenge. So hang in there, and we really want, our kids to get the social emotional connections they need, but in a safe way so it doesn't impact our community.
And I agree 100% with that, John. Our kids, we don't know how much longer we're going to be in this pandemic like this. And so there is that balance of allowing our kids to have the ability to have some engagement with their friends and getting creative in how we do that, because it's about their mental health too. And they need this, and they need to be able to engage. But I love what both of you have said, that because this can relate in a lot of different areas in our world today. These are our values. This is what our family believes in. This is what we stand by. And it doesn't mean anybody's any greater or less than us. It's just what is right for our family, because we love you and we're protecting you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question. When having multiple kids and one of them having ADHD end up taking all of the attention that is available from parents and the other children feel left out, this happens in spite of providing a decent structure for all. Any tips on handling such situations during remote learning? Also, any resources to help ADHD kids to provide them executive or organizational skills?
Thanks, Lisa. And thanks. And there are, and I know for the limited time, but back to the structure and routine Dave spoke about. I have 3 kids. I mentioned one of them. I don't think he's watching. His frontal lobe isn't there. His development, he's being assessed. Different things are going on. So his room and learning station looks a lot different. Whiteboard installed in multiple places in his room. His desk is slightly larger for organizational behavior because the pencils are different things. The chair was changed so it doesn't roll. We've had to make adjustments, but I'm in this work. So I consult with a school psychologist who used to work with me at another site, right? So again, back to, I would ask your teacher, your principal, if there's a case manager, because what you described is real and it's challenging. And I have fidget things, I have foot things, I have all of these things that I'm trying to do to create a learning environment. And the one thing that gives me a little bit of hope is I saw him last year get more distracted by 34 other kids or 23 other kids. And so we've seen some gain, but it takes a ton of structure. And I've had to ask for help. I even Zoomed with the school psychologist twice to just try to get some extra support. So we're here to help with that.
Thank you. So we will use our school resources for those kinds of situations. It was a great question. Okay, next question. There's a definite divide in our community with regards to reopening of schools and in-person versus remote learning, with many different and strong opinions. Does the panel have any recommendations on how PTAs can help provide unity and encourage more civil discourse?
Well, I'll go first on that, Dave and Linda, and you guys can jump in as part of that. I love whoever wrote that. Thank you, civil discourse, right? And I used to tell all my staffs, I say, look, our kids, our students are learning so much about how we as adults interact. Okay. Children don't always remember what you say, and you've all heard this and you can repeat it. They don't always remember what you do, but they remember how you make them feel. So if we can model this incredibly intense decision that's coming up in a calm, cool, collected, positive way, that will be remembered forever by our children. So to that person that asked that question, we're going to have a report Tuesday night at the board meeting, 7 p.m. Watch it live. We are doing hours of work this weekend, last week, to present a report. We'll be working as soon as this is over. Our team is the amazing assistant superintendents are putting together a plan. So I think what you said there, what I'll latch on to is there's no way every person is going to feel happy about every decision. However, we're going to do what we believe is best for 32,000 students. And you as a parent will always have your visions and what you believe is best for your child. And we deeply respect that. So again, we'll have a lot more information Tuesday night in a report, and our board will be asking us questions. So please join us then. And I appreciate you if you could, on those Facebook pages or whatever, just remind each other that we're in this together. And when all this is over, we're going to be together still. So how we treat each other along the way is critical, because we're going to all be together in one community again. And let's treat each other the right way along this difficult process.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, board meeting on Tuesday evening. All right, Rumi, I think we're almost out of time, so I'm going to hand it over to you for final comments.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Yes, we have come to the very end of our program, and I would like to invite all our panelists to give us some final words of advice and any other recommendations that you can think that our parents can benefit from. So let's start with you, Linda.
It's been said a couple of times, and it is, our kids are resilient. Our kids will get through this. We will get through this. And I just would encourage parents out of your strength and not out of fear. Because our kids are watching and they're feeling, and we have this, I think it's almost to seize the moment, an incredible opportunity to create a sense for our kids that they will look back on this 10, 20, 30 years later. And I will guarantee you there will be so many wonderful things that will come out of this for our kids, that problem solving, navigating and getting through failure. Some of our greatest strengths in life come through our failures. And so being able to just try to rest in that and know that we will get through this season, and that there will be a lot of positive things that will come out of it.
Thank you, Linda. Dave, can I invite you to share some final comments? Thank you.
Sure. Final comments. I echo everything that Linda said. She said it brilliantly. I would add, be kind to ourselves. And our biggest job right now is to be an emotional support for our kids. We're not the teacher. So don't try to be the teacher. Don't feel like you have to take that role on. So emotional support for our students, role model taking care of ourselves, knowing that mistakes are going to be made. That's a great expectation to have, and that we're going to try to learn from those mistakes and get better, and that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Those are my final words of advice.
Thank you, Dave. John.
Thanks, and thanks again for letting us join, and honored to be here with Linda and Dave. I think just to add on, we have to breathe. Parenting is the hardest and most humbling thing we will ever do. Brings us the greatest joy and the greatest pain. And it's even harder now, but we're going to get through this, and we don't have a playbook, a rule book. So I think as exhibit flexibility, show them that we can bounce back, and we have this. And again, just being here with us is great, and just love and take that extra minute. And I was thinking about this last night. The last thing I wanted to do was watch this movie with my 12-year-old. And I actually went in my room to go to bed, and I started to go to bed, and I realized he asked me, come on, Dad. And so I just went out and watched the movie and be that emotional support. And I didn't want to do it, but I knew as an adult that he needed me right then. And that's kind of the stuff we're doing. And so thank you for all you're doing. And we're here to help in any way we can.
Thank you. Thank you for ending on that positive note. Thank you so much. I would like to invite our Council President, Lisa Gross, to share some announcements with us and wind up this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rumi. What a phenomenal morning. This was absolutely incredible. And I really want to thank Dave and Linda and John. Your advice, your tools, your tips are amazing. And I'm taking away a lot of this for my own children, especially remembering we will get through this. And if the parent is calm, the child will be calm. That is something I'm going to try to remember. And thank you, Rumi, for planning an amazing day. I also want to share that we are having a candidates forum for the school board elections for the Board of Education for our district. That will be September 23rd at 6 p.m. on Zoom. Please check our council website and follow us on social media so that you can attend, listen, and choose some of the best candidate for your area. And if there's any unanswered questions, please feel free to email us and we will get the questions to all of our panelists and we can always post answers later. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday.
Thank you.